Hey everyone, it's Katie and Elisha from NowThatWe'reAFamily.com, and today we're going to be talking about how we're able to get quality time with each one of our children.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about how we encourage femininity and masculinity in these activities that we do with our children, because we think it's really important to get that intentional time with each child. Sometimes it's not like one-on-one, but it's still intentional time where we're looking them in the eyes, we're connecting with them, we're tying those heartstrings, and we're kind of paving the path for future harder conversations and letting our children know that, hey, we're here and we want to listen to you. What you have to say is important. And also we want to show you the wisdom that we have. Hopefully we have a lot more of it over the next decades. And so that's part of it. And then the other thing is more is caught than taught. And we do want to show our children the beauty of femininity and the beauty of masculinity and the way that God has breathed these different things into us.
I kind of categorize these in three different areas in my brain. This isn't that like written down or that formal, but in my brain, I think of like very intentional reading time with my boys, where we're reading the Bible, we're reading books, I'm telling them stories, and then we get to draw the morals and the principles from those stories and kind of go over them and sharing those things. And that's a pretty intentional time. The second thing I like to do is do physical activities that are very intentional. So building fires, going for hikes, we do jujitsu, we go for runs, we exercise, things that are physically engaging both of us. And maybe we're both learning a new skill at the same time. And then the third thing that brings quality time is just doing everyday life activities together. And just being physically present with each other, I feel like is great opportunity for relational growth. And so that can be running errands. It can be just
taking the kids to work with you.
Yeah, bringing the kiddos to work with me, bringing them to their swimming lessons, doing various projects around the house where maybe they're not doing the activity with me, but they're with me in body. They're with me right there and we're talking about things. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I kind of keep those three categories in my brain, knowing that they all serve a different purpose and that there are times where intentionality is extremely needed and it's extremely helpful. And there are times where me getting outside of my comfort zone and learning something new, I think is very needed as well. And then, like I said, there's that third one where I'm just including them in things that I had to do anyway. And when I think of Deuteronomy 6, where it says, I'm going to paraphrase here, but teach your children when you're walking by the way or when you're sitting down to eat or when you're lying down to sleep, it doesn't say, make sure you've got a designated Bible time throughout the day so that you can disciple your children. Do we have those designated Bible times? Absolutely. But that verse really speaks to doing life with your children and teaching them about God, exemplifying masculine traits, exemplifying godly traits so that they're, as Katie said, catching it rather than just receiving it through the teaching instruction.
Yeah, and something that we found, especially, we talk about this a lot in a podcast that we did recently, it'll be linked down below, on masculinity. And Elisha was saying that you really found encouragement doing things with other men instead of just sitting around and talking. And so I think that was kind of an epiphany that you brought home to our family. And we were like, okay, instead of just talking to our boys about this is what a godly man is, this is what being a gentleman is, this is what, taking care of women is, you just show them. and you do things with them, and they just pick that up, and it's like breathing to them.
Yeah, what's really fun is that I don't have to go out of my way to tell Leon, hey, this is a manly thing. It's a manly thing to help mommy lift this heavy thing, when she's trying to tidy something up around the house. He'll say it for himself. We'll go and we'll help mama move the couch, and Leon will say, Daddy, men are strong, and we help mommy and we help the ladies do things that they need help with that requires our muscles. I'm like, yeah, he gets the whole masculinity thing here without me even saying directly that we're doing a masculine thing.
Yeah, and so then likewise with Lucille, we only have one daughter and we have 3 sons. And so I started intentionally spending time with her just because she wanted the girl time. And I didn't really have a big plan behind it aside from she just wanted to visit, and she was craving something that was girly and feminine and not roughhouse in the living room and Lego. And so for me, I found that I like to be a doer. I really like to be doing things all the time. And so just incorporating Lucy into some of those things have been really, really special for us. Where my hands are busy, I don't feel like I'm just sitting up on Jack's being like, okay, let's talk. And then just kind of feeling like the time's ticking away. Obviously, that's not a great perspective to have, but it's one that can happen when you have all these things on your plate that you're thinking, oh, I need to get this and this and this done. For me, one of the most special times that I had with my mother was she would be cooking dinner and I would sit there and I would talk to her. I had a captive audience and I would just talk and talk and talk and talk. And this happened all through my teens. I talked to her about Elisha when we were dating, and that was when I talked to my mom, and I found that that's what Lucy loves to do. She comes into the kitchen while I'm cooking, goes, Mama, can I help? And she sits on the counter and she just talks to me, and she's just this little chatterbox, and it's really, really sweet. She's learning how to cook, which I didn't learn, even though I watched my mom all those years. But she's also just able to visit. And we have that element of carefree timelessness, even though I'm doing something that needs to be done on my plate, which is, making the meal.
I asked the question, can I incorporate my boys in this activity? So if I'm running errands, would it be more efficient to just do it by myself? Would it be faster if I didn't have to take the time to get them in their car seats and get them out of their car seats? Yeah, it probably would be more efficient. But one thing that Katie's dad always says that I like to keep in mind is that relationships are not efficient. And so when you think about the most valuable things in life, relationships are at like the very tippy top right there. And so when you let go of the whole efficiency piece of life that we so often like to gravitate towards and finding the most efficient way to do something, then that really frees you to enjoy those relational building times. And so when I'm running errands, I always try to incorporate the boys in those errand running time. Is that like a definitively masculine thing? No, but it is a relationship building thing, and we're just able to talk about life as things pop up throughout the errand running.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like femininity and masculinity, it's not necessarily that you have to be doing something that's like rough and tumble or something that's girly by classification. I think just spending time with your child, they're picking up on what is feminine, what is masculine, just by who you are. Spending time with Daddy, the boys are learning what it means to be a man. And Lucy spending time with me is, Lord willing, picking up on traits on what it means to be a woman. And it doesn't really matter so much what we're doing as who we're being. To
tell you the truth, my boys have served as a great inspiration to me. I think it was like 6 months ago, or maybe about a year ago, that Leon said something to Katie that Katie then passed on to me, and it was something along the lines of, boy, Daddy's really good at watching football. And I got
Daddy really likes watching football.
Daddy really likes watching football. And that got back to me, and I thought, whether that's true or not, I don't want that to be the first thing he thinks of when he thinks of what I enjoy doing or what I'm good at doing. So ever since then, I've really made a point to be active with Leon. There's so much energy built up into my boys, and I want to like capitalize on that and make my life more active for my own health, for my own growth, and for my own enjoyment. And so recently Leon came to me and he asked if we could run every morning. And I don't know where this came from. Like, I mean, it was,
where did it come
I don't know if he like heard it in a book or if he saw somebody else doing it, but he said, can we run in the morning before breakfast? And I said, sure. Like, I wasn't going to say no to that. And sure enough, like clockwork, every morning I told him 7:45, I'd be ready, he'd be ready, he's got his shoes on, I've got my shoes on, and we go out for a very short run. I love that I've got the ability to be out ahead of him with some of these things, even though he's the one kind of driving it. He'll bring the idea up, and then I'm like, you know what, yeah, let's lead this thing out. I want to lead this thing out, and I want to be the one spearheading these things. So he brings the ideas to me a lot of time, and then I get to be a part of the follow-up and the experience with him.
Yeah, and it's so cute to see just little things like he comes, he makes sure, hey Mama, I really need my shorts and my t-shirt washed tonight, and I need them dry before tomorrow at 7:30 because I need to be dressed for the run. And so it's just so cute, even how he's learning little things like time management and making sure all his stuff's ready and his preparation, and it's just adorable. And then often Elisha comes back, even though our 5-year-old is the only one that goes on the run, he comes back and he works out with all the boys. And I think that that's really special, especially for our middle son who's not able to quite keep up. It includes him on the activity.
Yeah, because that is something that I want to be really sensitive to, is not excluding the boys based off of their capabilities. Of course, there are going to be some things throughout life that one person can do and the other person can't do it because of logistics or because of age and, like I said, because of capabilities. But as best as I can, I want them to all feel like they're included.
Yeah, and so something that we do that is just really simple, and again, I feel like Lucy has spawned a lot of these things by just asking to do them. She goes down and she helps me pick out my dress for church, and that's just a really special thing for her. Going down, helping me pick out what I'm gonna wear for a date night. It's funny, she's really, I think because she has all brothers, she only wears dresses. She would love if I wore a dress every day, but I love that about her. And then same kind of with the cooking, getting ready. If I'm getting ready for a date, if I'm getting ready to film a video, if I'm getting ready to, for church, whatever it is, Lucy will come, sit on the counter, and be like, can I watch you get ready? And it's another time where I'm doing something and she just sits there and visits. And it's a really, really special time for us.
Like I mentioned earlier, I've really taken the opportunity to grow in my own capabilities since having boys. All of our boys have gravitated towards many of the stereotypical boy things: camping, wrestling, building fires, playing with, building weapons and fighting with them, make believe, and various things. And to tell you the truth, when I started having children and when I had my sons, I was not good at any of those things, and I'm still not good, but I would say I didn't even gravitate towards those things. I was playing music, I was working at a coffee shop, I was doing things that just required all my time. And so going camping, building forts, or doing jujitsu, those were not on my radar at all. But since having boys and their excitement for these things as it's grown, I'm like, you know what? I can grow in those things too. So a couple years back, I started doing jujitsu, and now I do that with my boys. I started getting into camping and getting into building fires and, surviving out in the wilderness. We practice making shelters and building fires, and we talk about what different things we could eat in the woods. And that's really fun. We bond over those things, and it's actually growing a skill set in me as well. And so not only are my boys stretching me in my capabilities, we're learning together, and that's really forming a lot of fun relational equity and building memories with one another.
Yeah, it's not like you have to have all the skill sets that you wanted to have or that you wish your mom had, you wish your dad had, comes to your kids. I think it's so helpful for them to see us learning new things too. Lucy learning with me as I learn how to cook, or as I learn how to bake, as I learn how to do different domestic things around the house. It's fine if we're both starting from zero. It's a great excuse to be like, I'm going to teach this to my child, and I'm going to learn this thing that I've always wanted to learn along the way. Some things that are really simple that Lucy and I do are just like with her school. When I read with her, that is quality time. And because I make sure that I do that while the other kids are napping. And so we're just able to sit there. I'm able to laugh when she thinks something's funny in the book. And if it sparks a little idea in her, then I'm able to hear her out. I found that sometimes just the environment can make it feel like this carefree timelessness where relationships are built, or the same exact activity when I have my 2-year-old, ripping on stuff in the kitchen and the boys fighting over here. It's like, it's not this intentional, sweet, special time. I don't have a lot of time. It's like, just get the word right, we're moving on. And so that's been a really special time for us, just working on her reading, because I think of the atmosphere and the environment when we're doing that. And it's the same thing when we read in bed with the kids. Elisha reads with the boys, I read with Lucy, and that's a really special time where we're just able to sit there and visit and read, and again, make eye contact. If we're visiting about something in the book, there's no other distractions around. I mean, that's what I always craved. That's what I remember when it comes to me growing up and building relationships with my parents. Hanging around while they did other things, and then it was them having time to listen to me when I had something that I wanted to share. But if we're so busy doing all the things, sometimes like taking Lucy to ballet, for instance, I found wasn't as bonding for me as cooking with Lucy, because I was just taking her to the activity and she was doing the activity, and yeah, it's like this feminine girly activity, but it wasn't necessarily building the relationship that some just like really simple things can do when you feel like you have the time.
I love that I have this opportunity to play a huge role in creating an appetite within my children and in my sons. And I keep that in mind as I'm introducing them to various stories and to different activities, and as we're learning new skill sets together. I think of a couple of years back, and I'm not saying that this was bad, but I do think that we've grown beyond this. My boys and I, when they would think of boy time, we would probably watch something. But I've found that actually doing things is even more exhilarating for the boys, and it creates so many more memories. Now they're referring to these things that we've done together. We've got a very small side yard, but my boys and I go out there and we try to gather as many leaves and twigs off the ground in our tiny little yard, and we regularly practice making a fire. And then just last week we went on our family hike, and the boys were so excited to put to use this skill of building a fire, and it was actually way harder than any of us expected, but we were able to do it. I tried it first with the flint and steel, but I had a lighter in my pocket that I resorted to.
It was actually like 20 minutes to get this fire going, and Louis our 3-year-old, ended up finding sap. We were all like scavenging, looking for stuff. He found sap, and that's what ended up getting our fire going. You gain a lot of confidence when you actually go out and you go hunting, or you go out and you build a fire, you go out, you do camping. Like, that's building in capabilities and confidence along with those memories.
You don't need a huge budget to do all these things, because of course hunting, camping, all these things can cost money. Building a fire, fixing your faucet, even just doing research with a book, figuring out what plants you can eat when you're out in the woods, reading about them and trying to know what they look like, so that when you go for a family walk in the woods, you can start identifying the various things. My boys are getting way into this, and it's been really fun for me, because like I said, I am not good at this stuff at all. In fact, it's really intimidating sometimes when my boys get excited about things, because I'm like, I have no clue how to do any of that stuff. I used to say things like, I'm not that type of guy. I'm not the type of guy that fixes my car. I'm not the type of guy that, fixes the garbage disposal. I call somebody for that, or I pay somebody else to do that. And since having boys, I've realized that that's really limited thinking, and it's just not growth. It's not having a growth mindset, and it's certainly not what I want to exemplify to my boys. And so now, I'm the first guy to look at the garbage disposal when it's not working. But I certainly do the troubleshooting with my boys, so that they're seeing Daddy take the initiative to fix the outlet. The other day, Lucy plugged something into the outlet the wrong way, and it blew up and melted the outlet.
She plugged in her CD player and then ripped it out of the wall, decided she was just gonna take it somewhere else.
My boys and I went and we found a replacement outlet. We got it in there, we replaced the outlet. It doesn't work, but that's beside the point. We did the project together, and I think it's not a fire hazard anymore. So, safety first, obviously, and we got it safe again.
We had this epiphany first with our boys, because I think we heard it a lot more with guys. Are our sons going to be academic? Or are they going to be like the hands-on, get in the dirt, do the project kind of guy? Are they going to be more physical or more like mental? I was talking to Elisha about this, because I was like, there's pros and cons of both. And he was like, both. That's the answer, both. He's like, it's not like they're one or the other. Like, a man needs to be all these things. He needs to be able to fix the problem with his brain, and he also needs to be able to get in there and do it with his hands if that's what he needs to do. And I just thought that was a really cool way to picture parenting. And it's not to say our boys won't have certain bents and one will lean towards one thing versus another, but that whole concept of both in our parenting, I think, has been really helpful. And it's the same thing with our girls. But right now we just have Lucy. Is she gonna be the girly, feminine girl that knows how to host and be domestic and all these things? Or is she gonna be the super capable, be able to go outside, get dirty, do what needs to be done kind of girl? And it's like both. We want her to be super capable in both ways. We want her to be able to transition both ways. I think what a blessing that is for her as an individual. And then if the Lord adds marriage for her one day, a blessing to be able to serve her husband, where there's not certain things that are off limits for her, where it's like, oh, I'm too prima donna for that. You just take care of it. And she can just jump in there and take care of it. But she also can feel confident in that girly, feminine side, and be able to get dressed up and be able to know how to put herself together and have the finer touch.
As I'm saying all these things, I'm really keeping the practical activities in mind, knowing that the emotional and the heartstrings are going to be formed over time. There's a great book that we'll link below called, I think, When Your Child's 6 to 12 years old. And that really revealed to me how much of an opportune time these young years are to grow memories together, to grow experiences together, because obviously we do change when we hit adolescence. And by the time they hit adolescence, I want there to be so much built up trust, so many memories in the storage bank, so that they come to us with their concerns, they come to us with their fears, they come to us with their insecurities, they come to us with the things that they're struggling with. I want there to be this relational equity that's in our bank account in the relational department just built up so high so they know we've got their best interest in mind. And as best as I can tell, while they're young, just spending time with them and having these fun interactions and these fun conversations is the best way to start building up that relational equity.
When it comes to building relationships, it's not about the thing you're doing. It's just about being together. When it comes to kids, if we're so engrossed in getting the project done, it's like, hey, we came here to have a tea party, so we're gonna have a tea party. The children know that. It's not about them, it's about you and your project and getting from A to B. And as adults, we can be really focused on getting from here to here, again, as efficiently and as quickly as possible. And that's not what relationships are about. If we were just together, it's about the process. It's not about the progress that you're making.
Yeah, we did a podcast episode a while back that we'll link that as well, talking about how carefree timelessness, the concept of this carefree timelessness is an essential ingredient in healthy families. This time where your kids know the only agenda is them. Like the only agenda is being together and being a family, having this time with one another. That plays such an immense role in forming healthy relationships and in forming a healthy family culture. And so even though we're talking about specific tasks and specific activities, which I think are really great, ultimately we really just want our kids to know that we want to be with them, that we value time with them. And they do things, they like being busy, and so we want to be busy with them, and we want to be an example of people that are always learning and growing and not being apathetic, not being lazy, but putting our time towards productive things. And so it's all of those things that we want to exemplify to our children, knowing that we want our kids to see us just valuing time with them.
Yeah, so really it comes down to how are we keeping score? How are we keeping score in our brains? When you can just change, like that subtle shift of we're here for time versus we're here for distance. When it came to being outside, it changed how Elisha and I could be carefree all of a sudden. And when you change the scorekeeping from I'm here to get this project done to I'm investing in my child and this is how much time I was able to invest in them and hear them chatter and hear their all that's going on in their little brain. How cool is that? And I think that serves us when our children are in their teens. I think that's when, Lord willing, we're gonna see even more of the payoff of this is keeping a close relationship through those times, through those harder emotional times.
I know for a fact that growing up, just being able to be around my dad as he was in different environments played such a huge role in my formation. And seeing how he interacted with the police officer when he got pulled over, that was like the greatest lesson ever. For seeing how my dad interacted with his coworkers, for seeing how he interacted, of course, with my mother and my siblings. Witnessing those things, observing those things played a far bigger role in my life than the different times my dad sat me down and walked through different Bible studies. Of course, those are really important things too, and I'm so grateful my dad did that. But when I think back, the things that really stood out were just being in the back seat of the car and seeing how my dad interacted when the driver next to him was furious at him, for cutting him off or whatever it was. All those things played such a big role in my formation, and I really want to keep that in mind with my kiddos and realize that that can only happen if my kids are with me and they're actually watching me live life.
The number one thing we could do for our kids is prioritizing our relationship with Christ and prioritizing our relationship with each other. Because you mentioned watching your dad and how he treated your mom, and the way Elisha treats me is so precious and forbearing and loving. And I see that in how his father treats his mom. And if it's all about the kids, and that actually can make them feel so insecure. But when they know that daddy and mama are prioritizing their relationship and they love each other and they take time for each other, And yeah, they fight and they argue and they get into disagreements, but in the end, they're a unit and they're unified. That is something that our children will take into their own marriages one day, and that's also something that makes them feel secure right now. They don't feel like we're leaning into them, like we need emotional support from them, because we have that here. We're able to pour into our kids and not need their affirmation or need them to tell us we're a good parent, because we're getting our own fulfillment and relational strength from Christ first and then from this relationship here.
Folks, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, then please do that, because Katie, how often do we come out with a video?
Every Thursday, and I tell you what, Thursday comes around fast. If you guys have anything that you do with your children at any age, now, like if your kids are our age, like in the toddler years, we would love to hear what that is down below. If that's just a special thing for you, we're always looking for new things. Or if your kids are in middle school or high school, or what do you do with your adult children? We would love to hear those things. We're constantly learning and wanting to hear from you that are further ahead from us and just have a different perspective in our life stage. So we'll look forward to reading those comments, and we'll catch you next Thursday.
Bye-bye.